Pleasant day, everyone. I am here to present to you. It's all about photosynthesis. As we already know, that photosynthesis, photo means light, then synthesis means to make. In short, the photosynthesis is a process use light to make food. Then next, um, carbon dioxide uptake by photosynthetic tissues. Um, it means that photosynthetic tissues, such as the chloroplast in plant cells, take up carbon dioxide or CO2 during the process of photosynthesis. I have here the picture of chloroplast. Chloroplast, or this is the organelle where photosynthesis happen. Then there are many parts of chloroplast, but duha lang ang kinahanglan nato na aning lima na parts is ang thycaloid and stroma. Then sa thycaloid diri nahitabo ang diri pinakauna mahitabo ang sa pinakauna na process ang light dependent reaction hap. Then sa mura siya ang kanang thycaloid is kana ganing piso gani na mura ganing sinsilyo gani na gipatong-patong. Then ang stroma is mao ni siya kanang nay space gani. Mao nang murag space gani sa chloroplast. Then diri pod mahitabo ang light independent reaction, or sa Tagalog ba is Calvin cycle. Then in this complex biochemical reaction, light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll, a pigment in chloroplast, and is used to convert carbon dioxide in water into glucose and oxygen. Next, some researchers suggest that the wind may increase photosynthesis by reducing boundary layer thickness and promoting mass flow of CO2. It means um, certain researchers propose that wind could enhance photosynthesis by decreasing the thickness of the boundary layer and facilitating the mass flow of CO2. However, the predominant evidence suggests that while this effect is measurable, it is generally modest. The anatomical features of leaves play a role in diminishing the distance of CO2 needs to traverse in a liquid medium, including the presence of small mesophyll cells and chloroplasts situated near the plasmilema. Next, the liquid phase constitutes a small percentage of total diffusion resistance in a tree, but is greater in herbaceous croplands. Partial closure of stomata increases resistance to water movement and should reduce transpiration more than it reduces photosynthesis. Um, 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 it means that in trees, the liquid phase represents a minor portion of the overall diffusion resistance, whereas the herbaceous croplands it holds more significance. When stomata partially closed, it elevates resistance to water movement, and this effect is expected to decrease transpiration to greater extent than it reduces photosynthesis. In essence, the reduction in stomatal opening while conserving water may also limit the uptake of carbon dioxide, impacting the photosynthesis to a lesser extent. Okay, next is carbon isotope discrimination during photosynthesis. It means the preferential uptake or fixation of certain carbon isotopes over or by other plants during the process of photosynthesis. This phenomenon is crucial in understanding how plants interact with atmospheric carbon dioxide or CO2, um, which contains different isotopes of carbon, primarily 12C and 13C. Ah, ma-explain ako ang kwan sa 12C and 13C. Yan sa diri is carbon isotope discrimination during photosynthesis refer to the differential uptake of a lighter carbon isotope, carbon 12 or 12C over the heavier carbon isotope, carbon 13, by plants during the process of photosynthesis. Discrimination, of course, because plant favored uptake utilization, the more abundant carbon isotope 12C over the less abundant 113C. When converting carbon dioxide CO2 into organic compounds via photosynthesis. In this um, in the context provide the explanation is this the explanation is describing the phenomenon of carbon isotope discrimination during photosynthesis, particularly in C3 and C4 plants. Ang pinakauna is kato isotope variation in atmospheric CO2. Sa atmospheric carbon dioxide CO2 is composed of different isotopes of carbon. Pinakauna is katong 12 katong primarily 12C and 13C with 12 carbon 12 to carbon 12 being more abundant in 98.9% than sa carbon 13 na 1.1% lang. Then kaduha is diffusion in stomatal pores sa carbon carbon 13 molecules being slightly heavier diffuse more slowly across the boundary layer and throughout stomatal pores into the leaf interior. Then katuloy is katong Robisco preference. Robisco, the primary enzyme of carbon fixation in C3 plants, has a preference for fixing carbon 12 over carbon 13. Then, sunod is resulting isotope ratios. As a consequence, the interior of C3 plant leaves tends to be slightly depleted in carbon 13 compared to the atmospheric ratio of carbon 13 is to carbon 12. Then katong C4 and katong CEM plant difference is kaning carboxylating enzymes in C4 plant in CAM plants which fix carbon dioxide predominantly at night show less discrimination against carbon 13. Therefore, the isotopic ratio in this plant is closer to that atmospheric CO2. And ang pinakalas is katong depletion of carbon 13. Sa statement is conclude that the ratio of carbon isotopes carbon 13 is to carbon 12 is C3 plants tends to be lower than in the atmosphere due to the combined effects of slow diffusion of carbon 13 and Rubisco's preference for carbon 12. So, kibali sa kani sa differentiation sa carbon isotope ratios is nagka-provide sa insights into the photosynthetic process of different plant types. Nagka-contribute siya to sa ato ang understand of sa plant physiology o sa carbon cycle. Next, the extent of carbon isotope discrimination can be influenced by various factors such as environmental condition, plant physiology, and the type of photosynthetic pathway utilized by the plant. Researchers often study carbon isotope discrimination at means to understand the plant's response to environment change and assess productivity and water use. Nakoy ipakita sa inyo na video o gatong tong sa equation pod. Then naratong sa equation. Then sa equation is um wait lang. Um, um, Kani siya nagpasabot na it describe kuan sa carbon isotope discrimination sa sa symbol. Then kani is nagrepresent siya is deviation in carbon isotope composition. Then ang kani is nag-describe siya is kuan kaning similar deviation of carbon isotope, or also it called abbreviated as sa carbon 13. Okay. Ako ipakita sa inyo na video, short video lang. Sa kato na equation, ang katong gipakita na sa akong gipakita na equation, sa kato sa video pod is kuan siya. That equation helps quantify the fractionation of carbon isotopes during photosynthesis, providing insights into plant physiology and carbon cycling. And that's all. Thank you.
So, good day everyone, especially to our instructor, Sir Thomas. Good day, sir. So, my topic for today is all about variation in rates of photosynthesis and species and genetic variations. So, variation in rates of photosynthesis. It is the rate of photosynthesis of woody plants varies widely and is influenced by interactions of many environment and plant factors. It sometimes is difficult to make meaningful comparisons of rates as determined by different investigators because of variations in measurement techniques and methods of expressing rates of photosynthesis. So when we say variation in rates of photosynthesis, it is usa siya ka biological process wherein ang plants and other organisms nga naay chlorophyll nagabuhat sila ganang own nila na food nagikan sa gikan sa tubig and carbon dioxide o sunlight aron makaproduce sila og glucose and oxygen. So, variation in rates of photosynthesis, it refers also to differences in the speed of efficiency at which plants and organisms carry out the process of photosynthesis. So, naay several factors no nga nag-contribute ani na variation. So, first is light intensity. So, photosynthesis is directly influenced by light availability. So, kung higher ang light intensity niya, it generally leads to increased rate of photosynthesis. So, kung low pod ang iyahang light intensity, so, mulow pod ang rate sa photosynthesis. Next is carbon dioxide levels. Adequate carbon dioxide is crucial for photosynthesis. So, same sa light intensity, kung low pod ang carbon dioxide concentrations, the rate of photosynthesis also may be limited. So next factor is temperature. Photosynthesis is a temperature-sensitive process. So too light or too low temperatures kanang maka-affect po siya sa kanang variation sa photosynthesis. Next is water availability. Water is essential for photosynthesis. So kung insufficient ang water gani, kung insufficient ang water, it can lead to stomatal closure. So, reducing carbon dioxide intake and impeding photosynthesis. So, dapat kanang enough lang po ang water, dili po high and dili po low, no? Para dili mag-close ang stomata. So, next is nutrient levels. Adequate levels of essential nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus are necessary for optimal photosynthetic activity. So, species and genetic variations. Photosynthetic capacity often varies appreciably among species and genotypes. Such variations are usually related to basic differences in metabolism and/or leaf anatomy. In addition, both species and genotypes differ in crown development, and greater leaf production or longer growing season often compensates for a low rate of photosynthesis per unit of leaf area or dry weight. So later on, ako na siyang explain, no, isa-isa kung unsa ang species, unsay different sa species variations of genetic variations. So species variations. In general, the leaves of deciduous species have higher rates of light-saturated photosynthesis than do leaves of evergreens when the rates are expressed on a leafy dry weight basis. However, the rates of photosynthesis vary widely in different leaves on the same tree, and comparisons among species may be misleading when sampling as well as measurement techniques and environmental conditions under which the plant developed were different. So, kaning species variations, kanang it affects how organisms interact with each other and at the same time sa ilang surroundings. So, for example, kanang fish, the size of a fish mouth known as its gape, no, gape ang tawag ana. It determines the size of prey it can eat. Prey kung unsang size sa baba sa isda, mura po nang kanang pwede na size niya nga makaon bitaw. Mura may makaya sa iyahang baba. So, mo ito siyang example sa species variations. So, dili na po ta sa genetic variations. Unsa rin yung genetic variations? So, from the word itself, genetic, gene. So, kapamilyar naman tanong. So, genetic variations is a term used to describe the variation in the DNA sequence in each of our genomes. So, genetic variations daw make us all unique, di ba? Like sa ato a human, lahi tag hair color, skin color, and even the size, the shape of our face rather, no? Like ta naay pa oblong of face, nga na. So, naako na siya sa plants and organisms, no? Naay plants nga, for example, sa leaf, lahi naay shape na heart, naay shape na kanang lingin, no? Naay giring-giring, and also sa animals, di ba? Lahi-lahi man jud. So, genetic variations refers to differences among the genomes of members of the same species. So, a genome is all the hereditary information, all the genes of an organisms. Genetic variations in a group of organisms enable some organisms to survive better than others in the environment in which they like. Like for example, kanang naay plants gali nga kanang mo survive ra siya sa kanang tugnaw na panahon, no? Yung ana dili siya mabuhi sa kanang init na panahon. So, nanon po na sila ang kibaling genes, kibali. So, organisms of even a small population can differ strikingly in terms of how well suited they are for life in a certain environment. So, ang best example ani is kaning moth of the same species with different color wings. So, ang moth with wings na kanang same color sa tree bark gali, pwede siya mo camouflage. Pwede siya mo camouflage para siya mo survive, no? Pero ang moth nga kanang lahi siya color sa kanang tree bark, dili siya capable na mag-camouflage kay mailan man gyapon siya. So ang mas makasurvive tong same color sa tree bark, no? So napon siya gitawag na process. It is called the natural selection. So, muna siya ang example sa genetic variations. And thank you and gatid po all. God bless.
So good day, sir and classmates. So my report for today is all about photosynthesis and productivity. So first of all, let us know what is photosynthesis and productivity. So photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is a biological process by which plants use in order to make their own food. So photosynthesis comes from the Greek word photo, which means light, and synthesis, which is putting together. So photosynthesis is light, or the sunlight is the major component. And what is productivity? So when we say productivity, it is it measures the amount of goods and services produced. So what is the connection between photosynthesis and productivity? So as we all know, photosynthesis is the one who makes the food for the plant. So it is the major um, the major contributor to the growth of a plant. So if kanang maka-photosynthesize og tarong ang isa ka tanom, so ang productivity is mas mo taas, mas mo increase siya. So short-term measurements of photosynthetic capacity often are not reliable for estimating growth potential. So when we say photosynthetic capacity, it is the maximum rate at which leaves are able to fix carbon during photosynthesis. And as we all know, carbon is one of the important components needed in the process photosynthesis. So short term or short period of time. So dili lang dapat ang ability sa isa ka tanom to absorb carbon dioxide ang i-consider in order na para ma-estimate nato ang growth potential sa isa ka plant, because there are other things to be considered. So in addition to photosynthetic rates alone, at least four other important physiological characteristics determine growth. So when we say photosynthetic rates, it is the availability of supply needed for energy. So ang availability sa supply na pwede magamit in order para maka-generate og energy. So aside from that, there are other four important physiological characteristics to be considered. So this include the seasonal pattern of photosynthesis, the relation of photosynthesis to respiration, partitioning of photosynthate within the tree, and the amount of foliage produced. So the first one physiological characteristics is the seasonal pattern of photosynthesis. So when we say seasonal pattern of photosynthesis, it varies with the seasons. Seasonal, so seasons, it varies with the seasons. So the maximum amount of light is present in summer and the minimum is in winter. So summer, so since mas kusog man ang sun sa summer, kay tinginit man siya, so mas kusog ang photosynthesis dira ang season compared sa winter nga walay init. So the more sunlight a plant receives, the greater its capacity for producing food via photosynthesis. So since light ang major contributor sa process nga photosynthesis, so the more nga sunlight nga ma-receive sa plant is mas dako iyang capacity nga para makaproduce og food for the plant. So this literally means nga if more light or more sunlight is mas dako iyang capacity nga mas motubo ang isa ka tanom. So the next one is the relation of photosynthesis to respiration. So what is respiration? So respiration is the process of converting sugars to energy and involves taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. So respiration is the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So kabaliktaran siya sa photosynthesis. So imbis na carbon dioxide ang ginapasulod nila, is oxygen ang ginapasulod nila. So this happens when the oxygen from the air enters to the leaf through stomata, which is the small little holes in the leaves. So it provides cells with the energy they need to function. So this happens in the mitochondria, which is considered to be the powerhouse of the cell, because because ang mitochondria is the responsible for extracting energy. So if kanang dili lang ingon nga kanang photosynthesis lang ang importante, but also the respiration. So if kanang mangutana mo if kanang nahitabo ba gyapon ang respiration, well nahitabo ang photosynthesis. Well, yes, mahitabo siya, but respiration occurs all through the day but becomes evident at night time in plants. So di ba kay So pagbuntag is since ang photosynthesis is light magid ang iyang need, so mas kuan yun ang photosynthesis in daytime. So ang photosynthesis since mo kuan siya since muhinay siya igagabi dito na dayon mas mokusog ang respiration since dili man siya nag-required og light. So next is the partitioning of photosynthate within the tree. So when we say photosynthate, it is the resulting product of photosynthesis. So these products are generally sugar. So sugar, as we all know, is the product of photosynthesis, and sugar is the one they use to generate kanang energy. So dapat is ang sugar is ma-distribute siya all throughout sa parts sa plants para nga magamit nila as energy and then makontinue ang process. Next is the amount of foliage produced. So when we say foliage, it is the collective leaves of a plant. So leaves in a plant are mainly tasked with the role of carrying out photosynthesis. So since ang photosynthesis is mahitabo mangin siya sa leaves sa plant. Therefore, the more the leaves a plant have, the more it can trap sunlight used in photosynthesis, and therefore the plant makes more food which it utilizes. So kung mas daghan ang leaves sa isa ka plant, is mas daghan siya nga matrap nga light nga magamit niya sa photosynthesis. So in conclusion, plants having a more amount of foliage, the greater it can help to the growth of the plant. So, Easy Brands 1988 showed that clonal differences in leaf photosynthesis and integrated whole tree photosynthesis, or the sum of maximum photosynthesis of all the leaves of the tree over time, exists throughout the genus Populus. So kaning clonal differences in leaf photosynthesis is nag-exist lang siya throughout sa genus nga Populus. Ang genus nga Populus is the genus of some 35 species of tree in the willow family or the Salicaceae, which is kanang native lang siya sa northern hemisphere. So what is special about this family is that these trees are fast growing, so mas dali mo tubo ni na mga tanom gikan ani nga pamilya, and then they also often grow tall, so mas kanang habog siya, mas habogon siya na uri sa pamilya sa kahoy. So journal variation. So when we say journal, kuan siya kanang daytime or at the daytime. So unsa ang photosynthesis at daytime? So the rate of photosynthesis generally changes during the day. So magbago-bago gid ang rate sa photosynthesis during the day. So the rate commonly is low early in the morning of a clear day and is associated with low light intensity and low temperature. So pagbuntag is hinay gid ang photosynthesis since wala pa may adlaw ana. And then despite the high leaf water potential and high carbon dioxide concentration in the intercellular spaces of leaves. So bisan pag kanang daghang tubig ang isa ka tanom or daghan siya carbon dioxide nga absorb, kung walay sunlight is dili gihapon makontinue ang photosynthesis nga process. So as the light intensity increases, so kung mas magakusog ang kanang light intensity, so kanang the air warms, so muinit ang hangin, and then the stomata open and net photosynthesis begins to increase rapidly and may reach a maximum or near noon. So ang stomata is mag-open na siya kung mas kusog ang light intensity. And dito na din magsugod ang pagtaas sa photosynthesis hangtod sa udto. So except for the midday decreases, journal changes in photosynthesis often are reasonably well correlated with changes in light intensity. So ang photosynthesis is associated gid siya with light intensity. So kabalo magita nga ang light intensity is the strength of the light. So kung mas kusog ang light intensity, mas mo increase pod ang photosynthesis. And then kung hinay ang light intensity or kung walay adlaw, so hinay pod ang photosynthesis. So by comparison, on bright sunny days, photosynthesis normally increase rapidly. So kung ting-init is mas kusog gid ang photosynthesis, and then reach a peak between 9 a.m. and noon. So 9 a.m. pa lang is kusugay na siya padulong udto, and then decrease until late afternoon when it increased again and reach a second but much lower peak. So pagpadulong na hapon is muhinay na siya since kanang ang adlaw is magkahinay naman pud siya pagpadulong na og hapon.
Good day, sir, and good day, classmates. Today we're going to tackle about causes of the diurnal variations. Daily variations in photosynthesis may have different causes, including environmental influences, light and humidity effects on stomatal aperture, temperature and light effects, and mesophyll photosynthetic capacity. So when it comes to causes of diurnal variations, example light because as light intensities is increased, further chlorophyll can get damaged as a result that rate of photosynthesis decreases. And then the stomatal aperture because of its stomatal control exchange between the leaf interior and the external atmosphere. And the next one is mesophyll. It's essential for photosynthesis tungod kay siya ang nag-facilitates nga mag-exchange sa mga gases sa photosynthesis. And the next one is humidity. It also causes of including environmental because of kanang kumutaas ang humidity level is too high, ang isa ka plant cannot get rid for the water vapor. Mao nang makastop sa iyang evaporation process and affects their growth. And then kaya ang isa ka plants dili na maka longer take og new nutrients tungod kay ang iyang high humidity plants evaporate too much water, mo nang maka-cause siya og over evaporation processes. And then it is also important that photosynthesis in our environment where provides energy to nearly all ecosystem. So the next one is during the first minute or two of elimination, RUBP regeneration is the major limiting factor in photosynthesis. After approximately 2 minutes, stomatal opening and activation of rubisco by light are the primary factors that regulate the rate of photosynthesis. So, RUBP stands for ribulose bisphosphate, and it's a 5-carbon compound involved in a Calvin cycle. So, part of the light-independent reactions of photosynthesis ni ang RUBP. Present ning RUBP sa metabolic center of the chloroplast. So, when we say regeneration, diri gina-allows ang plants and animals to replace or restore damaged or missing cells, tissues, organs, and even entire body plans to full function na siya. Mao kailangan ni regeneration kay para sa isa ka plants ug animals maka kuan siya. Ang iyang ginabuhat is kanang mag-restore og mag-replace siya sa mga damage nga naapektuhan sa isa ka kuan para mo function ulit. So, the question is, can photosynthesis happen without rubisco? So, the answer is, without rubisco, there would be no storing of the sun's energy in plants because dapat naa dyan ni si rubisco kay important ni siya kay mo man ni siya ang sumatang open activation mo nang maga enzyme which catalyze the sa Calvin cycle where our RUBP is ribulose bisphosphate, which is the substrate for the enzyme rubisco. And then although some investigations attribute the reductions in photosynthesis to stomal closure caused by excessive water loss, that actual mechanism appears to the more complicated. So it is very important that we know the causes of diurnal variations. Here are the example of causes diurnal variation. A temporary midnight depression of net photosynthesis of cork oak was attributed to. So when we say cork oak, isa na siya ka tree nga ginagamit kanina siya sa wine gani pang taklob ana niya. So number 1, a decrease in carbon saturated photosynthetic capacity after light saturation occurred in the early morning. So photosynthesis reduced and the light saturation point in decrease. And a decrease, number 2, a decrease in carboxylation efficiency. So, a chemical reaction in which a carbolic acid is produced by treating and substrate with carbon dioxide. And third is, last one, a large increase in the carbon compensation point, Tenonin et al. 1984. The plant do not grow normally if the plants of composition point for a long time. It because the rate of photosynthesis is low mo ng large scale point. The question here is, the plant grow at compensation point? The answer is no, because plant cannot grow due to the rate of photosynthesis is low. So, isa ang causes ani sa iyang kaaning compensation point is that the light intensity. In contrast to the case of cork oak, restrictions of the carbon supply in leaves at sessile oak due to stomatal closure was primarily responsible for reduced photosynthesis at midnight and in afternoon during midsummer Hunen et al. 1985. So mao ni siya kung maga-reduce yun yung photosynthesis at midnight and the afternoon during midsummer. So naga-exist ni siya sa hapon during midsummer. So next one is seasonal variations. So seasonal variation, it is important to distinguish between seasonal variation and the photosynthetic capacity of trees associated with leaf ontogeny and actual rates in the field. So it is also important nga mabalaan nato ang isa ka seasonal variation, because kung dili nato siya mabalaan kanang naa siya, there might be a conflict kung dili nato mabalaan sa isa ka seasonal variation. For example, sa kaninga plant kay pang cold red ay ni siya, tapos natanom nimo sa pangkuan summer, so dili jud nato so sa isa ka plant dili na matubo jud sa ingana nga seasons, because wala nato na differentiate kung unsa ilahang kuan, how important it is in a way that we know the plant sa pagkuan niya. So the next is actual rates of photosynthesis in the field show much greater fluctuation from day to day because of environmental conditions. So ingani pod sa day to day because of, so kailangan po nato mabantayan kung unsa na condition ng isa ka sa environment nato karon nan batan. So in addition, the photosynthetic rates of plants change seasonally and diurnally in response to climate conditions. So nakadepende ra gyud ni siya sa kuan sa climate na maabot sa ato ang kuan. So that would be all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, especially to our instructor, Forester John Mark M. Thomas. Gymnosperm. Seasonal variations in photosynthetic ability happen more gradually in the temperate zone, compared to deciduous angiosperms. The photosynthesis capacity of gymnosperms is steadily rise as springtime. Temperatures rise and the frequency of night frost decreases. Truly, months from April to November, however, due to fluctuations in weather, the seasonal durations of photosynthesis vary by as much as 1 month between various years. The low winter temperatures had partially deactivated the photosynthetic system, which was restored in the early spring. However, neat photosynthesis was not detected until the soil water thawed, following the impact of winter temperatures on the photosynthetic apparatus. More than 2 months were needed to restore maximum photosynthetic capability. Variations in the photosynthetic efficiency of McGregor and Kramer 1963 examined the seasonal variations in the photosynthetic capability of lovely pine and eastern white pine seedlings in North Carolina. The seedlings were housed indoors, although they were occasionally brought into the lab for measurements of CO and absorptions at 43,000 lux and 25 degrees Celsius for both species. The rate of photosynthesis per unit physical length increase gradually starting in February and accelerating quickly until April, uh, when it began to diminish during the fall and winter. On the other hand, only one flash of shoot growth early in the season was produced by eastern white pine seedlings for every species. An increase in foliage after April 9 was partly responsible for the increase in photosynthetic rates. In Australia, Norway, pine had a noticeably photosynthetic rate up until late autumn, and this was especially true for areas of the crown where wintertime chlorophyll breakdown had taken place. As a result, the photosynthetic machinery only continued to work during the winter months that did not see any intensity. Strong fires were 4 to 5 months near timberline. The temperatures were so low that photosynthesis was practically eradicated. And then next is winter photosynthesis. Wintertime photosynthesis in evergreens varies with climate zone, yet it could still be significant in the winter season. Evergreens frequently have rise in dry week in the winter in the southeast of the United States, which is an indication of photosynthetic activity. Photosynthetic activity. Next is angiosperms. The rate of photosynthesis is in many deciduous angiosperms usually increase quickly in the spring when the trees rapidly stay high throughout the summer and swiftly decreases and when the leaves are starting to winter away in the late summer or early fall. The seasonal ability of the entire plant to photosynthesis. Different species of deciduous angiosperms have distinct leaf growth patterns as a result. Variations in leaf surface area may be anticipated in the total photosynthetic capability. The photosynthetic rate of sparse-shot leaves, which increase quickly in apple trees, and decreases when this leaves ends and stays relatively steady for a few weeks after the leaves are completely extended. Extension branch leaves continue to photosynthesis at a faster rate than spar leaves. That's all. Thank you.
Hey, sir, good day, everyone. So, we will continue the report with Mrs. Kimberly Mauricio. So, first is environmental factors. So, environmental factors like a light temperature, CO2, air humidity, soil fertility, salinity, pollutants, and diseases. Impact photosynthesis cultural practice like thinning, pruning, fertilization, and irrigation alter plant environmental regimes, regulating stomatal conductance and mesophil photosynthetic capacity. So, kaning environmental factors is nag-encompass ni siya elements like climate, ecosystems, pollution, and human activities that influence the natural world. They play a crucial role in shaping ecosystem and affecting the well-being of both the environment and living organism. So the next is light intensity. So light intensity is photosynthesis rate varies due to leaf exposure to light intensity. Growers need to adjust like microclimate through thinning, pruning, and branch spreading. Exposure to light throughout the season is ideal for high quality fruit production. Stomatal and non-stomatal inhibition reduce photosynthesis by shading. Full, phosi- full photosynthetic capacity is achieved through induction and enzyme regulation. Light intensity affects photosynthesis with interaction with other environmental factors influencing its effects. So, kaning light intensity is nag-refers nito to the amount of light energy per units sa area. It is a critical factor for plants photosynthesis, influencing their growth and development. Additional light intensity plays a role in virus ecosystem. So, naka-affecting po ni siya sa behavior and activities of both plants and animals. So, and the next is light response curves. Photosynthesis occurs when carbon dioxide, CO2, is released from leaves during darkness, resulting in the gas exchange between the leaf and the atmosphere. As light intensity increases, the rate of photosynthesis increases until the compensation point is reached, where the uptake of CO2 and release in respiration are equal. This competition point varies with the species, genotype, leaf type, leaf age, CO2, air concentration, and temperature. The efficiency of the photosynthetic apparatus under light limiting condition is indicated by the quantum efficiency. With further increase in light intensity, light saturation becomes evident, and the increase is photosynthesis is progressively less than the proportional to the increase in light. Eventually, light saturation occurs, and the, and the and the increase in photosynthesis is progressively less than proportional to the increase in light. So, kaning light response curves is now illustrate how to specific biological or physical process response to varying levels of light intensity in plants. For example, a light response curves for photosynthesis typically show how the rate of the photosynthesis changes with different light intensities. These curves provide valuable insights into the optimal condition for various biological activities. So, and the next is sunflex and photosynthesis. Sunflex short periods of direct irradiance are essential for the survival for understory plants in dense forests. They can compress up to 80% of total irradiance of the forest floor. Sunflex significantly influence plant growth with up to 60% of C gene attributed to the their utilization. The growth rate of shade tolerant trees and shade tolerant trees is correlated with the sunflex exposure. So kaning sunflex and photosynthesis is sunflex are brief period of direct sunlight that penetrated understory of a forest or other vegetation. In the context of photosynthesis, so sunflex are important because they provide intense bursts of light, triggering a rapid increase in photosynthesis activity in shaded plants. This phenomenon is known as the sunflex response, where plants efficiently capture and utilize these short periods of direct sunlight for photosynthesis slow light environment. So that's all.